Uh-oh.
What?
Scissors?
Oh no. Are those yours? Oh.
World's greatest scissors right here. World's greatest scissors right here. Oh, they have to be big holes so that your hand can fit into them. You don't want those ones with a little tiny one and the big one. No, you want to be able to put your hand in them both ways. They need to be short and they need to be sharp. Blunt tip so you don't poke Mr. Horse by accident. Things happen. So watch out. Make sure you use the right tools. A very sharp pair of scissors is a good thing unless you have an accident. And accidents do happen. I can't stress that. You never know what's going to happen. You always have to prepare for the worst case scenario. You know, like horse trips and falls over your ladder and lands on, you know, what do? Well, you know, think up a plan or something.
I think your blade, your yarn is tickling me.
Could be. Dude's thirsty. Okay, so looks like the line works out pretty darn good. We're gonna go through, and because we want our hands to be range of motion oriented, we want to trim our yarn so that we keep the range of motion of our hands to a minimum. You don't want to be moving your hands everywhere. Like I said, you want to use your yarn short. You don't want to try to grab this yarn at the ends, and because you'll just break it. It just won't hold up for any amount of times. You'll be replacing the yarn all the time. So here's what I took. We're going to slide, and it's very important. Stand up, please. It's very important that you just slide the latch hook through. You don't force it. You go right between the plaits. You make sure that you go right in between, and you don't break the integrity of the first plaits, because that's what's going to cause a major pain in this horse's neck. And that's the first thing that is going to cause this horse to rub his braids, is a pressure point. The second thing that will cause this horse to rub is tying in the fur that's right here at the edge where the fur meets the hair, where you're tying your knots. If that hair isn't nice and short because he's been body clipped or rubbed on, then you're going to tie that fur in there, and that horse is going to try to get that fur out by rubbing his nice little braids on these bars, and the bars are going to win. The braids don't stand a chance, even my braids. He seems parched. You can hear how it kind of snicks right through.
Snicks?
Yeah, if you, oops, yikes. See how I caught that? Yikes. Yeah, you gotta be very careful about not hooking your yarn with your hook on this. Because you don't want to fray your yarn or run your yarn. You want this to be as strong as it can be, and it's just not very strong to begin with. Whoops. Right in between the plaits. Sorry, I'm bonking the camera. Right in between the plaits. You want to separate right in between. Now, I used to have you go pull up all the braids so that everything was done in order, so that you could see your braids. And I suppose you can. You can go set them, pull. Now you see how that knot turns down, straight up and down? and it helps that tail turn straight up and down by putting that crease in there. That's why I use that knot, to crease that tail right there. Pull it through, crease it, and pull it down so it's nice and creased, because we don't want that hair to have a stand-up tendency. We want that hair to have a lay down tendency, so we crease it and that knot turns up straight up and down, and that's what helps us create a good crease at the top. So no twist in the yarn, just form an X, a crisscross, go up underneath. You want to make sure you seed that knot down once, twice. You form a half hitch and you slide this one down this one. Hold this and just slide it down. Slide it down and press that knot flat. You're going to reach across and 2 twists. You want to start that yarn going back the other way and not put a knot in it. I don't put a knot on the top there because I found that if you put a knot in there, then it makes a form of point of tension that will pull on one side as you're going back around that braid. If you just have a crisscross, then there's no point of tension. Like if I were to tie crisscross on the bottom, then I make my 2 twists, lay it right on there, snug it right down to the main. Now if I were to tie a knot right here, that's kind of what I used to teach, but if I do that, then it forms a pull. If I just do another twist, then there's no way that there can be any sort of pull. It pulls evenly and all the way through and forms a nice crisscross right on the front of the braid to help your knots look pretty. So you can see how that's sticking way up. Push that right back down in there. In fact, let's pull it out, pull it back up, and pull that right back down. See how we've got that seated way better now? Once, twice. I'm gonna just snug that down. Once, twice. Go tie that tail to the back of the braid. Now it's wrapped around it, so you just pull it up. See how it's gone? Once, twice. See, we're catching that hair and tying it behind. We don't want to have to cut it off. Now he's kind of playing with the rope in his mouth, so it's making it a little hard because he won't hold still. Come on. Once, whoops. Once, twice, right on that angle. Once, twice with the twist, tie it to the back of the braid. Once, twice. See, you use the yarn. Hey, please. You use the yarn and you bend that hair around that yarn so that tail that's sticking out the side there has something to turn around. You see how you tie it right to the back there? Now if you can bring that loop down a little bit like that and snatch it quick, oops, and then snatch it, then it wants to fold up nice and snug behind there. That's how you want it to be. Once, twice, and then you do it again. Just missed, even I missed, but that's how you pull it up if you have to do it nice and slow, manually. Twice. Snug it up. Tie it to the back of the braid. See how quick that one went? Once, twice, and then we'll snug that back there. Make sure we got a nice crease at the top, which is why I like to crease as I go, is that the longer the braid sits there on the neck before you tie it, the more that crease is going to relax and let go. You want to tie the braid as soon as you crease that knot so that you have that really good crease there. And you don't let that slip around. That way you have a nice, snug top in your braid. Come on, bud. And you don't have any chance of that tail popping through the top. See, that's what we call a palm tree if it's sitting up like that after it's all braided. And that's bad. We don't want that. So we make sure that we crease the top really good. Crisscross underneath. Make sure you've got to check that seating. Make sure that that tail is right up there, seated right in place. If you mess it up, you're gonna know it, because you may do everything else perfect except that, and that's gonna make it look awful with that one big thing sticking out the top. Don't get me wrong, I've had my share of them, but not so much since I've adopted this style. It was when I was doing other things to my braids that they were acting like that. They weren't behaving right. This particular style that I've perfected, as far as I'm concerned, you can use on any horse and make the braids turn out really decent the first time, and even better the second time, because you learn the landscape the first time, and you kind of anticipate it a little bit by looking at the neck like I did at first and saying, look, we've got this, so we're going to kind of look ahead. You can see through this hump that the braids are still kind of lining up. It helps to try to position the angle that you snatch that at a 45 or so to perpendicular, because that's what's going to bend that hair around the most succinctly around that is that degree. If it's too low, you tend to push the tail up and not catch it like you saw me do earlier, and then I had to kind of manually crank it around. You really want to be able to jerk that and catch it. You don't want to have to go slow, because that's when you make mistakes. It all goes together a lot faster and smoother at high speed rather than normal time. See how fast they work? See, I got that big tail all the way up there because I did it fast. Every time I do the same thing. Try to catch a little pause here and there. Make sure I get all of that hair.